Hello, my name is Howard Milano, and today I'm going to show you how to model and animate a multiple gearing mechanism in FreeCAD Assembly 4. It looks like this in an assembly. So there is a rotary movement, that is the little wheel that drives the big wheel, another rotary movement, and there's a gearing involved. The little wheel rotates quicker than the big wheel. And this multiple gearing mechanism comes out of the 507 Mechanical Movements book. It's number 27. So how do we do this in FreeCAD? Let's look at the variables. Let's set this one to 30 so it lines up properly. Alright, we have angle that drives this little wheel, the little wheels with the pins. Angle drives it in the animation. Pivot radius, these things there, the pins, I call them pivots, they have a certain radius. Small wheel pivot radius goes from the center of the pin to the center of the part, and it's defined as pivot radius times 7. Then there is big wheel slot radius. It goes from the pin, center of the pin, to the center of the big disc, and is defined as 2 times small wheel pivot radius. So that means from here to there is 1, and from there to there. So the whole thing from here to the middle of there is twice small wheel pivot radius. And you can see that the grooves are slightly bigger than the big wheel slot radius because it only goes up to the pivot, and then the wheel itself, the radius, is again a little bit bigger. So you have to take that into account when you model things. Alright, variables. Let's take a look at the parts. Small wheel, and a part like this, little arm sticking out, there is a really good FreeCAD Sketcher tutorial that shows you how to do that. It creates one here with 5 arms, and I created one with 3 arms. And if you're not that good with modeling, this is a very good tutorial to go through. It teaches you about construction lines, for instance, an important concept. And then you just add the pins, the pivots. Big wheel. It's a basic disc with slots in it, and the slots you make with the grooves, you make a slot and you pad it, and then you cut it out of the boolean, cut it out of the big disc, and you use 3 of them at 60-degree angle away from each other. So let's look at it from the top. Both of these parts, if you're not that good with modeling, these are good projects to learn better modeling. Alright, let's look at the master sketch. Here is the center of the small disc. Here is the pivot, the pin on the small disc, and that one is the one that rotates. Here is the center of the big wheel, and it is, how far away is it? The center is from the center of the small wheel, it's exactly small wheel pivot radius away. And so small wheel pivot radius from the center of the little disc to the pivot, to the pin, from the small wheel center to the big wheel center is again small wheel pivot radius. This, the arm, remember this big wheel slot radius, that is the radius of the slot to the maximum position of the pin, and they both equal on both sides here. And the slot is anchored right over there, and the little wheel is right anchored over there, and the pivot, the pin, slides on the slot there. You can see it. I'll show you here in the animation. So when you set this running, here on top is the small wheel, the center of the small wheel. Here is the center of the big wheel, right at the bottom here. Here is the pin of the small wheel, one of the pins, and you only have to model one of the pins. The other two pins are being dragged around with this one. And you can see the pin drags the groove around with it. So the whole thing is driven by the angle, by the rotation of the little wheel, and that makes the big wheel rotate. Alright, let's look how we insert them. So small wheel, there the small wheel is attached to vertex 1 and edge 2. Edge 2 is that one. It's the edge that rotates. That makes the little wheel rotate around the center here. Where do we insert big wheel? It's inserted over there. And it is attached to edge 3, which is the big thing there. So the edge 3 will rotate around the local coordinate system of big wheel. Alright, then all you have to do is add the two parts to the assembly and attach them to the local coordinate systems, and you get it to work then with angle. So you can see how the pins, the pivots, stay in the grooves. They drag the grooves around with them, and the little disc rotates quicker than the big disc. So that's the gearing involved, multiple gearing. Let's look at it from the other side. Let's look at it this side. So when you build this into a bigger mechanism, you need to add an axle over here for the little wheel that drives the little wheel, and then you have to add an axle to the big wheel, and you do it at the bottom. Over here you add another circle there, a plate with an axle attached to it, and so the little wheel axle will drive the big wheel axle. And I didn't show that, I just wanted to show you the basic mechanism. Okay, multiple gearing in Assembly 4 in FreeCAD. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps.